This is 2OF Entertainment.
Welcome to the Lost Dollar Business Club, where we talk about business, and not just business. We talk about what makes businesses go up and what makes businesses go down. If you're interested in businesses, this is where it is. We talk about the global economy. We talk about global politics. We talk about everything and anything business related that affects your life on a global scale as well as a local scale. And don't miss after the show, Lost and Found.
And here we are. This podcast stuff is always good because I would say to people, firstly, you never know what's going to come up, and we have a guest today. But first off, welcome to the Lost Dollar Business Club. Nick is not with us today because he's stuck. Is he in passport something line trying to get his passport done?
Prison. I think he was in. I think they sent him off to
just because he's probably got dangerous views. Either that or he's having a spray tan or something like that. So Nick isn't with us, but we do have a guest today. And we'll bring him on in a second. But Tom is part of my men's membership, which we will cover in a minute because a lot of this links to business. But today we're talking about the harsh realities of sudden change in business. And guess what? The unsurprising one of that is lockdowns, which fucked a lot of businesses, but also it helped some businesses. So we'll come on to that. But David, let's bring Tom in and we'll go from there, brother.
Okay, let's say hello to Tom. Hi, Tom.
Tom, welcome, mate. And you and I obviously know about each other, but give the guys, firstly, an idea of, age. I know you've been, you had various careers, but also, you've had a business that, of course, lockdowns affected it and what have you. And we're going to come on to that. But give the guys a rough idea of like age, what's going on for you in life at the moment.
So I'm nearly 41. I don't know where that's gone. My career started long ago at 16 working in pubs. Basically learned to be a chef, which I started to enjoy. I then decided at 18, I had a place at university to take a completely different angle, joined the military, served as an infantry officer for 10 years. And then due to the demands of the military, I decided, right, enough's enough, I'm going to get out. Started to work in the private sector, which I enjoyed, but then thought, actually, I want to make something for myself. So I started a company, learned a lot from that. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go as well as I wanted to, but it was a good starting point for me to go, okay, this is something I want to move forward with. I then thought I'd move on to something else, back into catering. So my first company was security consultancy, looking at counter-terrorism contingency planning for businesses, how that could affect their insurance, and how we could assist companies in that domain. I then moved on to, I thought I'll go back into what I know, catering. So I started up a catering company, and that actually started to move quite well. I started literally on a market, high street, selling cheese toasties.
Good.
It was a cheap startup. I had the experience in chefing before. And things started to progress. I had my own open air cinema. I started to host fine dining events, and the business was starting to grow. I was starting to get turnover, and it was actually quite nice. And then unfortunately,
what could go wrong?
Who could have forecast that? And obviously, the catering and hospitality sector is not the place to be during COVID.
Yeah.
I thought something else. I thought something had blown up, Tom, and you had to deal with it. That was
so that was me then back into the military on a contract because I still had bills to pay.
Whoa, sorry. Okay. How do you do that then?
I remained as a reservist. So I stayed as a reservist.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Forces. Yeah. So I deployed, and actually it was probably another really good opportunity because I went in as part of a project team looking at, ultimately we were delivering the largest internal change management project in the military, looking at time more than anything. So instead of looking at where we were losing money, it's where we were losing time, where we were wasting our soldiers' time, and how could we make our fighting force more efficient, which I thoroughly enjoyed, got a lot from it, and it kind of reminded me actually, yes, I enjoy the military, but I've got that itch of running my own business and doing it for myself. But all the experiences I've had before working in both the public and private sector, I think have really helped me understand pitfalls. But you can never account for the next COVID or whatever might be coming around the corner.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I wanted to go back first of all to, you said, and was it when you worked in, let's say, counter-terrorism of advising companies? Was that right?
Yes.
What what would that look like? What kind of companies would be coming to look for that advice? And
so I did multiple sectors really. So first of all, I was working with some insurance underwriters in London. We'd obviously had terrorist incidents in London before, but actually from my background and understanding a bit more about terrorism, we have marauding terrorists who go around looking for stuff. But ultimately, if I went into London and pressed a number of fire alarms, people are going to come to me. So I could wipe out an entire company quite quickly because everyone goes to the same place, usually a local park. So if I was a terrorist, I can make people come to me rather than I go looking for them. Helping businesses understand what to do.
Sorry, Tom. So just I'm a bit slow as an age thing. So yeah, I am slow. So what do you mean by that? They could come to you. So you were saying that, but by causing an incident, everybody would go to one central place because that's what they were told to do by the company. A safe place, then, like as if they're having a fire or whatever, they will go to the car park. And that would be where the incident would take place. Then,
yes.
Is that okay? Yeah.
So very much how. So
there's nowhere to go then.
So what businesses generally do is they have a fire evacuation plan because they have to. They'll evacuate to a location and then do a head count. But ultimately, you're in effect putting all your eggs in one basket. So you could have all your admin, all your HR, all your operations, CFOs, CEOs, all in one place. And that company could be pretty much rendered inoperable in one fell swoop.
Which would be the same as having everybody fly on the same flight.
Yes. So we would help companies look at, yes, you need a fire evacuation plan, but how do we split your organization to different areas? So if something was to happen, actually you are still functional as a business.
Did anybody actually think about, sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, that just seemed, this is the first time I've ever heard this. I mean, was it as much a surprise for the people that you were advising?
No, not really. They just hadn't thought about it. And unfortunately, so one of my silent partners, I spoke to him a little while ago, and I was about 3 years too early because had I still been going, there's actually quite a bit of demand for it now. So there's whole streams of avenues. You've also got lockdown procedures. So should you want everyone to remain inside the building, how you do that. I ran scenarios for schools, for lockdown procedures for schools. So we would do tabletop exercises, looking at their contingency plans, their lockdown plans, their communication plans, and testing that to the point of we would have role play actors calling in to pretend to be parents, going, I've seen this on social media, really to test their plans. Because until you test something, you don't really know how well it's going to work.
Yeah.
We did red teaming, which was ultimately trying to break into sites. Usually senior managers would be aware, and we would look to infiltrate their offices, see what information we could glean, and then report back. So it was a whole raft of services, really.
It's so interesting because I guess probably for David and maybe for me, you realise that it is a different world to what you're thinking. And I know myself when I worked in the city and I'm trying to think at what point it was where there was either demonstrations in the city and your building would be on basically, let's call it lockdown for argument's sake. And, they'd have enforced security because you had the, bellends from Just Stop Oil type stuff there. You wanted to, spray paint stuff in the building. And I guess it's really interesting where you said, and I remember having evacuation procedures at Glencore in the city, Glencore in Bond Street and in the city, what have you. Like you said, that would be a great way to get everybody out the building and assemble together if you wanted to create an incident.
Yeah.
Interesting. And from when you left that, when you moved into catering, because I always think this is what's important for people that listen to this, sometimes you have to reinvent yourself. And where did you go then when you left and moved into catering? What did that feel like for you? Because it's obviously a totally different business, different world.
Yeah, working on a market stall in Chef White's compared to sitting in a boardroom explaining to people that we've just broken into your sites and this is how we've done it and this is what we've exploited. But ultimately, it's talking to people. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy talking to people and then questioning me and having those conversations on a market stall that you, most times of the day, you wouldn't speak to these people, you wouldn't know them, but you just have these conversations. You start to find out about people. And it's amazing what people will open up to you, whether in a boardroom or while they're waiting for their cheese toasted to be cooked. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy people, talking to people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But Tom, could I just interrupt you then? Did you need to do that then for your own sanity? Because between bombs going off, kidnapping, and all sorts of crap happening on in one job, and then making tosties on the next. I mean, did you need to make that drastic flip? I mean, obviously, if you're making me a toasty, you're the best person in the world. But if you're wandering into my company and saying, look, guys, this is the contingency for kidnapping or bombs and stuff going off, then, people would perceive you to be a completely different person.
You adapted.
Yes. And I think that's the main thing, is adapting to the environment I was in. And ultimately, it came down
Is that a military thing, do you think, that you're able to adapt? Or...
Yeah, me and my partner speak about this quite a lot. I think I can compartmentalize things quite well.
Yeah.
And go, well, that's that. And we'll have conversations and she'll be like, I don't understand how you can just compartmentalize that. But it's just something, I guess, maybe military training, I don't know, but I'm able to switch off from one thing quite easily and not bother me.
It's a good question, Dave, because I just find it interesting how, having interviewed hundreds of men on my original podcast, and it would be amazing when you'd hear a guy that had one career and then it either fizzled out, or business had gone bust, or you'd been made redundant,
or circumstances like COVID, for instance.
Yeah. Or fucking lockdown. And again, I think it's important to point out also, obviously with lockdowns, and again we'll come back to Tom because we see how it affected his business. But to state the obvious, with what I was doing with the Whole Man Academy, I was doing men's events, and obviously that got stopped. And yes, you can move online to do events, but we know it's not the same as having kind of men in the same room. So I know a lot of guys who had certain businesses that, through no fault of their own, because it's never happened before and hopefully it never happens again, but through no fault of their own, they had their business ruined in one shape or form. But interestingly, I spoke to a guy the other day that his business absolutely thrived because of lockdowns. And it just reminds you, there's always a yin and a yang. And what he said, he runs a very profitable, very low stress business, which is very unusual to hear those terms. And I wrote an article about it today. But what he said was, unbeknown to him, because lots of people were forced to be at home, it actually, his business suddenly created a lot more people that had the available time and money to spend on his business, which I thought was very interesting. So Tom, what was that like for you? Because I won't say what the business is, because it's such a good niche idea that it was like other people would steal the idea. And I really mean that. It's that good. But it was interesting how that guy said to me, he thought lockdowns would fuck his business completely, but actually it skyrocketed because suddenly there was a lot of people with money to burn and nowhere to go, and they were doing decluttering and stuff like that. So it does remind people there's money to be made in every situation. It's just how you adapt or you die, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at funeral parlors. That's not it's somebody's death and loss is their number one gain.
Yeah, they're still doing a thriving trade near us for various reasons. But so Tom, come lockdown, where were you with business, and then what happened? Because it was a sudden thing for a lot of people. And I know we nearly saw each other on Wednesday night for dinner, but you were working. Well, I was telling the guys there that I was in the restaurant in Covent Garden 3 or 4 days before lockdown started, having dinner with, I think, 14 men. And then who'd have thought that a year and a half later, everything would have been closed for such a long time. So what was that time like for you?
Challenging. I think that, the title of the show today, The Harsh Reality of Sudden Change, it was, I'd had a business that I realised wasn't succeeding, but ultimately you had that, I've got bills to pay.
Yeah.
I've got to get money in. So while I was setting up the catering business, I was doing little bits on the side. I was working in a coffee shop, and I was living hand to mouth on credit cards. I was driving around a 25-year-old car that was literally on its last legs, but needs must.
You do what you have to do.
Drive it forward, because you're always trying to look at the opportunity, go, well, I can do this, I can do that. And actually, where I paid a couple of £100 on a tin, I pretty much used the last of my credit card to buy a gazebo. It was all good stuff, but I didn't want it to be secondhand, cheap stuff. I thought I need an image.
Yeah.
You want it to look clean and fresh. Got my griddle. It was probably about my last £900 paid out. And as things started to go, you're like, okay, I'm paying things off. I've now got some cash in my pocket. I started to have a couple of staff for certain events I could rely on. We catered some weddings, doing barbecues. And I had my go-to people. And my name locally, it was getting better. And it's that word of mouth, especially in that industry. The word of mouth of, oh, Tom's really good. And then overnight, it's gone. And you sit there going, right, I've now got all of this stuff. I've got to do something with it. It had to go into storage. So if you're a storage company, good time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, right, well, I need to do something. And I think time is one of those things that we would love to have more of. The more time you have to sit there and go, okay, what opportunities are there? The easier it is, but you're up against it. The opportunity, there was opportunities in COVID.
Yeah.
Crypto, as an example, if you know what you're doing with crypto, did fantastically well because everyone sat in front of their computers and
dabbled
their cash.
Yeah.
I didn't have that luxury, so I was forced to go back into employed work, and it was lucky the fact that the military had an opportunity at the time, so I had to take that. But I very much wanted to look at what other opportunities are there, and I think me and my partner, we both work full time at the moment. We both are looking to start this business because we want time.
Yeah.
Because with more time,
that's the ultimate luxury in the world we live in.
It's not so much because we have a young family. It's not so much time with family, but where we work at the moment, and we're working shifts, you don't see the wood for the trees. So we're
just work.
Yeah, we're trying to get this business going, and it's not a huge outlay, but enough for us to feel the pressure of it. But ultimately, we want it to work. So we've got more time to look at other business opportunities. Because at the moment, where we're working full time, it's so hard to sit there after work and go, right, I'm going to dedicate 4 hours to looking at this and sorting it out because you're exhausted. You've got kids running.
Kids, yeah.
But what we're trying to do is achieve something that we don't think will initially bring in one of our wages a month, but enough for us to go, okay, one of us can stop work. We'll use this. This is going to run 2 to 3 days a week. It will bring in enough that it's going to be tight, but it gives one of us time to look at the opportunities of, well, what else can we do? What other opportunities are there with this business and other businesses? And that's the thing, is we get sometimes so focused in on what we're doing at the time that we don't have the opportunities to open our gaze and look at the other opportunities. Because the more I can expand, the more I have, the less susceptible I am to change. If something in one area goes wrong, my other parts of the business might be okay. But when I'm so focused in on one, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Makes sense in my head.
Yeah, that was slightly contradictory to what you said earlier on about being able to, be focused on one thing and then leave that and move on to the next one. It sounds a lot like people say to me, like, why is this, and this? Well, because life got in the way. Because it doesn't make any difference how many plans you have. All of a sudden, life gets in the way, and it's a huge sort of like steamroller that if you're not careful, it would just roll over you, and you're just so busy dealing with life. The normal stuff. The shop, the cleaning of the house. Doing this, and the family must do numbers, and then you look around, you think, oh, where's it all gone? Where's all the time gone?
Well,
are you happy to talk about what you've got planned, Tom, or is this all secret squirrel? Or I appreciate both. But
it's not secret squirrel. It's in effect, it's a mobile catering opportunity. So going back to what I know, I'm very lucky in the area that I am in. I've noticed an opportunity, which is why me and my partner. So I have my strengths. My strengths lie in operations, doing stuff. My partner has a degree in business management and marketing. So she's the brains, and it's very handy in the fact that I've met someone whose strengths are my weaknesses. My old business before, but my issues with the marketing of it, getting the name wider than word of mouth, whereas she is just naturally akin to that. That's her domain. Yeah. So between the two of us, we've seen an opportunity that we're going to drive forward. And as I say, her strengths complement my weaknesses. So
I think it's for those that run small businesses. Now, if you're in a big business, then you can have lots of staff, but the smaller your business, the more important it is that someone has a strength in all these different areas. And for me, it's the same. You know, some of the guys I spoke to who've got small businesses, it might be that their partner can do their accounts for them and has an idea of marketing and something. Whereas for them, you know, I know some guys are very detail focused and they're good at tech, but they're shit with people. And I'm probably vice versa. Emma, my partner, can sit there, and if I've got issues with the computer or, you know, trying to do different like technical stuff, she's very good at that. Whereas for me, I just glaze over straight away. And the amount of guys I spoke to who work for themselves or small businesses, it is hard because you're wearing hat after hat after hat. Whereas when you work,
this is what we spoke about last week. You know, like being in the circus and keeping all those plates spinning.
It's the job. And I think, you know, funny enough, when lockdowns came along, if you work for a big company, it wasn't nearly as damaging for you because you might have got furloughed. And again, sadly, I know people that got furloughed and they were like, this is really good. Like, I'm saving money. I'm getting paid, you know, to stay at home and do fucking yoga and do whatever you want. So for me, it didn't affect people as much if you worked for most companies because everything just carried on as normal. You probably just got paid your same salary. So unless the company shut down, it didn't affect you. Whereas it was the smaller and medium businesses and the local businesses that got screwed, basically, which one could argue is a deliberate attempt to ruin the economy, but that's another rabbit hole to go down. But a great example in our local village, or one of the villages near us, there's a lady that runs a really good like boutique chocolate shop who does very well because of the tourists. But she was made to shut her shop because it was so dangerous. But the local garden centre was allowed to stay open and sell chocolate and all these things. So like, hold on a minute, the little business gets shut down, but the bigger businesses were allowed to stay open. And that's what.
Yeah, but did she pivot? Did she go to the garden centre and say, I've got all this chocolate?
She was able to stock some of her stuff in there, but obviously you don't take such a cut for it. But she was one of the lucky ones. So it can be hard because, you know, there's curveballs which we all know you might have seen coming, and things like what happened there, or a financial crash, you know, in the markets, which of course can affect big companies as well. What about you, David? Have you been in any companies or working when you've had to have a massive pivot or you suddenly adapt to something's gone tits up?
Yeah, my whole working life. I mean, because I came to Holland literally just with one bag, and that was it. So, and I couldn't bring. I studied construction in the UK, but I couldn't bring any of that with me when I came. Because I'm not a practical person, so it would all have been, office stuff, and so all the rules were different, and they didn't accept my diplomas, etc., etc. So yeah, through the years of working with lots of very stupid people, I eventually decided, you know what, I'm going to have a go at just trying to hold my own trousers up. Yeah. So I've had some good businesses and some bad ones, made some good decisions and made some absolutely appalling decisions.
What's one of the most appalling decisions you've made?
The opportunity to step away from something which was very profitable, but at a sense of greed, I stayed, and then the company got bankrupt. I sold the company, got bankrupted, not by me, got assets stripped, and I got tied up in all the things that a bankruptcy brings to a company, whereas in fact I'd actually sold it. But because of my own greed, because I had this sort of, I had the opportunity. Do I take a golden handcuff? Yes or no? I decided to take, yeah, of course I do. Of course I want to, even more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that cost me 15, 16 years of my life, I suppose, all the trailer poo that went with that. So, yeah. So I go back to what Tom said about weaknesses and doing stuff. I think it's really important that it's a terrible Americanism. They say stay in your lane. So, if you're good at making toasties, keep doing it, mate. Don't worry about the marketing side of it. Don't even think about it. Just let your partner, if that's her thing, give her, or whoever it is you're working with. Because I always say, we said this like a couple of weeks ago, we were on the show. If people could do what you could do, they'd be doing it. They wouldn't be working for you. But if you need a carpenter, employ one, and be blessed that they're bringing a skill set to you. Carpenter is an example. Then a skill set to you that you just don't have. And give them the freedom to use all their skills and not worry about it, because I think that's the thing. Worry about what other people are doing in your business is fatal.
One of the things I've definitely learned is, as Anthony said, you're trying to wear so many hats when you're running a small business.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let go of those bits. You're like, no, this is mine.
Yeah.
And I think
that's fatal, Tom. That's fatal.
No, and that's what I'm saying. This time round, I think we had a friend of ours. She's a social media guru. Is what she does day to day. So she's provided some assistance, and we're paying her back in childcare.
Hey, it's not to do with money, is it? We're bartering like we were doing in the Middle Ages. It's like.
I think as a small business, sometimes it's a case of, at the moment I can't pay you, but I can help you.
You are paying you, Tom. You are paying you.
We're looking after a child, different. But
yeah,
I think what I like about small businesses is people are more willing to help each other because they've got the experiences. Nobody ultimately wants the other person to fail. When you get into bigger businesses and in the corporate world, they want their competitors to fail. They want to be better than competitors, and they lose sight of what they're about. When smaller companies, you can ask people and go, look, you've got that skill set. Can you give me a hand? What can I do in return?
You go back to how it was when people were building a barn, years ago, that everybody would come together and everybody would contribute. And the lady that was bringing water to the people that were working there was just as important as the people that were working there.
Mm.
And then when she needed something or whatever, I mean, this whole bartering thing, I think is absolutely, it's almost like a dirty word, but I think it's something that
can't be taxed. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, like what Tom's saying, if you have something, say like, this is what I would like, but I'm not looking for a free lunch, but this is what I have to offer.
Yeah.
You're getting if you were employing her, she would be on X number of €100 an hour or £100 an hour or whatever it is, So that has a monetary value for her. But if she was taking childcare, it would also be a monetary value. No, take the money out and balance it up. Yeah. Happy days. I think that should just be encouraged.
I've seen that more and more. Where again, you said, Tom, like small businesses. One of the chaps I know who runs a business reached out to me a while ago and kind of said, I need someone that knows my business to help me with certain stuff. And he's helped me in the past, so I didn't mind doing the same. And it just reminds me, if you don't ask, you don't get. There's been enough times where people are, and again, even with the work I'll do with men, sometimes you're just reminding them to just fucking stick your cock in the custard. Like go and ask someone or make a call, and if someone says no, then you move on to something else. And I was going to ask you, so knowing that this was the title, I always think of if you were someone that's reading this, listening to this, whatever, through business, and they were thinking, okay, well, I need to adapt my business because it's not doing so well. What would one bit of advice be? For me, it's always, sometimes I've had experience of companies that have tried to have different products and now they're not doing very well financially. And I would say, what's your money? What's the real money-making product? And therefore, can you cut away the fat around you, if that makes sense, and focus back on your original product that made you money before you went out. And you can relate that not just to a product, to people. If you've got a large team, harsh as it is, you have to look and think, who do I need to keep that can make us money? And unfortunately, who do I need to get rid of? And I've spoke to someone this morning who's got probably 2 or 3 redundancies they're going to have to make in their business by the end of the year. And no one likes doing it, but priority is fucking the bottom line of profit, basically. So David or Tom, any advice on someone that's at how to adapt in business, or from any previous experience?
David, would you like to go first? Or?
Yeah, well, I would say, like, just do it. Whatever you need to do, because you can only help people if you're in a stable place yourself moving forward. I had a couple of businesses which we did wholesale, import wholesale. And the first one was, I needed to have the biggest warehouse because it's overcompensation, and the biggest amount of stock. And then but when you then realize, I can now employ somebody to regularly do stock takes for me and see what all the stock levels are, because we were also doing full service merchandising in shops. And you think, I don't need half of this stuff. I don't need X, Y, and Z product. So keep it mean, keep it lean. I think that's the way to do it. And if you have to let someone go or choose to do something which is painful, make it quick. Rip the plaster off. I'd have to tell Tom that, as ex-military. My father was military. I came from that sort of background. It was quick. It was quick, harsh, and fair. Let's put it that way. And I think that if you can, as long as you offer, you don't do it with malice. I had the unfortunate circumstance in my life where I nearly drowned in Greece, and the last thing somebody tried to save me.
How old were you, David?
I was 27.
Wow.
And I was swimming with this girl, snorkeling, and it all went really, really downhill very quick. And she tried to save me. And the last thing I can hear was these guys shouting at her from the beach, "Kick him away, kick him away." And then the next thing I remember is them pouring liters of ouzo down me, and me sort of throwing up on the beach. And what they'd done is, because I was fighting with her, and she wasn't strong enough, one of these really big burly Greek guys came in to the water who had a better skill set, and they saved me and brought me to the side. And I've never forgotten that. Kick him away, kick him away. And sometimes, I mean, she was in tears that she had to do it. She said, I thought you were going to drown. I thought I was going to lose you. But, but the guy said to her, if he'd have drowned, you would have drowned as well.
Sometimes you've got to kick someone away. It's good. It's good. Yeah. It's a good life lesson there. Tom, go on.
Mine would probably be, know your strengths, understand your weaknesses, and don't try and overcompensate for your weaknesses. If you're not good at something, don't try and be better at it. Get somebody to fill that gap for you.
Yeah, 100%, Tom.
Do what you know and stick to that.
Because I guess, to state the obvious, in the military, if you're using that as the example, you will have your area of expertise. And I have a friend who's deals with all, like, logistics and loading the big transporters and stuff. But he's an expert in that. And I had to laugh because I was away camping the other week, and he was helping his wife pack everything up. And he took 3 times as long as me to pack it up, but it was all done beautifully and neatly. Whereas mine was
we saw your car, Anthony. We saw the pictures of your car.
So, it did make me laugh.
But the difference is, of course, he probably knew where everything was, which you didn't.
Yeah, it just showed the difference between his was was it more haste, less speed, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah,
he did it right. And then I opened the boot and it all fell out. He was probably had it all neatly stacked. But no, I understand. And Tom, where do you think you go timeline? Because again, adapting to everything that the government can throw at small businesses in the UK with taxing and everything else, do you have a date in your head for starting the business? And therefore, as and when it starts, we'll have you back on to talk about kind of how it's going a few months into it.
Originally, about 2 weeks ago. But as with everything, not quite there. I genuinely hope middle of September to start moving things forward and have everything ready to go. And things moving in the right direction for that, I think.
And it will be.
How does that? Sorry, how does that feel then? It's ex-military that somebody's moved a date. You know, it's like this is the date, and this is where we're going, and this is what's happening.
The military side of me would be quite frustrated, but the pragmatist in me goes, project timeline slip. You set a date, you set a budget, you know full well it's not going to happen. There will be, all right, there's things already that have happened. I didn't account for that. But I'm not going to get all stressed about it and go, oh, well, that's ruined the timeline. Because I've learned from previous experiences, because I've got employment at the moment, I'm not under that pressure. Whereas I've learned lessons before where I've gone all in, overcommitted, and that was the downfall of my first business. I had the drive, I had the will, I didn't have the cash behind me to keep me going long enough.
Yeah. You were already in the hole before you could even start digging it. So
if I'm delayed by another month, it's frustrating, but it doesn't hugely impact me. I can pay the bills. I keep the roof over the head. It's not. It's an inconvenience, but I'm financially in it enough that I'm not just going to sit there and go, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. No, I still need to get it operational. I need to get out. I need to get some customers and start making some money to even pay it off. I don't want myself having to pay the debts of the business that I've started. Again, lesson learned from before, because it just becomes painful. I've separated that out, and I wanted to operate to at least cover its costs.
It's a good lesson. That's why it's good having you on here, because again, David and I want to bring on more guys who are in various stages of business, because often I can meet someone that, if you don't know their background, they'll be starting a business. Then you find out they've had 3 other businesses, or they've worked in them and they've learned so much from that. They're now applying all the fuck ups that they made in the other ones, and this one is the one that's going to work.
Yeah. Instant success only took 10 years. You remember that one?
It's still classic, isn't it? And Tom, before we kind of move on to the Lost and Found, you joined My Men's membership a few months ago. And for me, we've grown to like 21 men in there now, and I feel like we're building a good little community. Can you explain why, what you hope to get out of it?
For me, it's that accountability and having the support of people. And obviously, the group already, there's people in there with expertise that have already come to me and gone, Tom, this is what I do. I can help you with this. When you need me, let me know. And ultimately, it's people just having each other's back, having that support. And whether they've got the professional skill set to help or not, they've got your back because they want to help you succeed. So they drive you forward. Like I said to you the other week, I felt like I was lagging a little bit because of everything going on in my own life and things getting in the way. And you kind of gave me that kick up the arse going, right, no, you're going to tell me that you're going to tell me what you're going to do on the Monday, and then you can report back on the Friday that you've done it. And sometimes having that, just someone to hold you to account sometimes, because I'm good at holding myself to account, but there's still that little voice going, but you're really tired, you've had a really busy week, there's a lot going on.
And I think you should change the name to the New Barn Academy, because you guys are building all these barns. I got this mental picture of everybody getting together and building this structure. And then what happens then? Somebody else says, "Oh, I'd like one," and then you go to the next one, and you jump into that.
Right. It's that collective support, and again, even and you're right, Tom. Accountability. Everybody can have brilliant ideas and stuff, but back to a Monday morning when you're sitting on your own at your dining room table with your laptop, and you're like, no one's telling me what I should do, so I can just do whatever the fuck I want, which doesn't add to progress. And I had a guy here last week who's recently joined the network, and I literally said to him, bring your. He brought his iMac with him, and we set it all up. So it wasn't just a coaching session with me and him. He was actually doing stuff there and then. And that night I said, right, you need to go home and do this, this, and this, which he was doing, but wasn't doing optimally. And a lot of people would say, oh, do you know what? I finished with Ant at 4:00. I'll give it a go on Monday. He messaged me like 11 o'clock that night saying, I've already done the first 2 things on the list. They actually didn't take that long, and it feels like good progress. And I was like, perfect. That's the kind of guy we're looking for, who isn't in a year's time going to fucking moan that he hasn't got any money and moan that his business isn't taken off, but he was happily watching football on a Friday night instead of working on his is shit. So good. We're
you can do both. You know, and if the TV takes way too much from you, put the radio on and listen to the football. But you know, so there's yeah. But I you know, I commend you both. I commend you as well, Tom, to accept the fact that sometimes you just need that proverbial kick up the arse to get stuff done. I mean, one last thing, Tom, can I just ask you, is this your dream then, or is this a collective dream between you and your partner?
I think our dream is to have businesses to give us more time. We know we've got to work at it first, but ultimately that we can start handing stuff over to other people to run, so then we can open something else. So the dream is to have our own businesses in multiple sectors that protects us from sudden changes and things turning and government deciding that they want to tax certain areas differently or whatever.
A tip from me then is that if you have your core business, look around to see what bucket and spades you have to buy in order to make your business happen, and then look to that bucket and spade business or that area of that bucket and spade as your next area that you want to move into as a business. Because in every gold mine, the only people that actually make money are people who are selling buckets and spades. So it doesn't make any difference how successful businesses are, how successful the mine is, they'll always be selling buckets and spades. So look around your business and look to see what's servicing you, and then move into their area. And that's a safety net for you as well, you see, because they'll have their own circle of clients as well, of which you will be one. And that way you don't become ultimately reliant on one particular bucket and spade company to help you with your business.
I like that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so.
And before we go into the lost and found, the other piece of advice that I was listening to somebody the other day who's got a massive following, and they gave a good reminder that when people say their business isn't going as well as it could be, they would say, you know, have you told everybody you could about your business? Like, have you emailed, depending on what you're doing, but, you know, have you emailed every fucking person you know and told them about what you do, especially if it's a localish business? Because often people are like, oh no, I'll just rely on like posting on Instagram now and again, or posting, and you go, yeah, do that and send a stock little email to 100 people in your email list, or every ex-colleague, or whatever it is. Make sure that if you've got a good business, you've told everyone about it, which I think we could all learn from at some point.
Yeah. The one thing that I do, I mean, I actually had somebody contact me the other day and they say, oh, that's a great idea. Do you mind if I use it? And I said, well, no, because it wasn't unique. But I've been doing this for the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, if you've got a lot of people that you on LinkedIn or in your business, in your little black book, find out when their birthdays are, find out when the birthdays are of their kids if you can as well, and send out happy birthday greetings to them. I sometimes sing to people as well on the phone, just to wish them. Do you know what? Because I'm the only idiot that does it. Yeah. And they're going to remember that. And that's the simplest way. Just say, happy birthday from Tom's sandwich bar, or whatever it is that you're doing. You know, come get a free toasty next time for your birthday. Yeah. You know, or whatever. And then simplicity itself.
David, just on that, again, something I spoke about the other day with people, it blows my mind people haven't realised the value in it, is, for God's sake, find a way to get people's email addresses and email them every week with your stuff about your company. You know, and I don't mean we're selling. You know, I spoke to someone who owned a beauty therapy place. And I said, okay, business isn't going very well. Let me take a look at it. Number one, like, how in touch are you with your customers? I don't mean like spiritually, but how often do you email them? Because they had about 7,000 people on a Facebook group and about 2,000 on an email list. And they said, oh no, I just feel bad if you email them because they'll think you're just spamming them. I was like, no, you're selling a product and to your potential buyers. You know, they've bought something off you and you've got an email, so keep in touch with them. And it was a bit like, oh no, because I feel like they'll think I'm, you know, selling to them. Like, you are fucking selling. And I'm
you are. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, So one of my biggest tips I learned from guys who are way ahead of me in the business thing was, find a way to stay the obvious, collect email addresses and email them once a week or twice a week or whatever, whether you've got a pizza van and you say, hey, this week our special is a Hawaiian pizza and there's 10% off.
Yeah.
Be in their face so they can think, oh, Friday night, I can't be bothered to cook. Hey, Bob's, whatever it is up the road that's got a fish and chip van or something like that, we can pop up there. It's simple stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you can do daft things like just one for you then, Tom. Just because this is a brain fart. This is a freebie from me. Vegetable of the week. Just say this week the vegetable of the week is whatever, and it made you smile, and you haven't even got the email.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing they can do is to say, please take me off your email list. That's the worst thing they can do.
Yeah. And as a man who I've now sent 765 articles on men's performance, as Tom knows because he gets some of them. But you'll get the odd person that'll unsubscribe. Like, cool, like they don't vibe with you, so off they go. But the guys,
they don't need you. Yeah, kick them away.
They'll come
kick them away.
Good, right, David. Let's do Lost and Found. We don't expect Tom to have one because he wasn't prepared for this. But
But normally what we do is we kick the guests off Lost and Found, but we won't do this week because give Tom an idea of what we're doing. So yeah, Lost and Found. So get yours up then.
Is it showing on your thing? I did have.
You have to load it in first.
Well, I'm going to do it again because this is one that. Is no surprise, to be honest, which is I'm going to put the screenshot up. Hold on a minute, we can do this. This is
there you go.
There we go.
I can do it, and then you can change it after I've done it.
All right, there it is. So Claire's Accessories, which is a UK high street, it's one of the many shops that I see are in trouble, to state the obvious, financially. And again, when it's mentioned in the Guardian, you understand that if it's mainstream, there's obviously a big problem here. But and I looked at the let's call it drowning in debt, and it's the high street is on the brink. Its US parent filed for bankruptcy again, and UK Army is poised to appoint administrators. A £25 million loss over the past 3 years, and this is what blows my mind: 355 million owed at the moment. And it just reminds you, when I look around at high streets, I think the high street is in massive decline, and the problem there is, when the high streets die, communities die as well. So some of these places are going to have to adapt or die, but that is a large amount of jobs that will, again, lose from the high street, lose from local areas, and it affects the economy completely. So Claire's Accessories going tits up, in short.
So there you go. That's the lost dollar. Yeah. And if Tom has any comments about that, or
Tom? No, I agree. I think the high street is in a right state. My local area, you go down it, and I just don't think local governments are helping high streets thrive.
Yeah, I agree.
It's such a shame.
Yeah, David, your turn.
Yeah, well, I've got one for both of you. Then you can actually tell me if it's a lost dollar or a found dollar. So this is my contribution for this week. This is a company in the US, a startup company, who's now told us that they're going to be turning mercury into gold, and at the same time they're going to be using the energy that they're using to produce from mercury to gold as a green energy going forward, using nuclear fusion. Of course, this is not going to happen to at least 2040. So is this a found dollar? Is it a lost dollar? Is it all vaporware? Is it all, who knows?
On my initial instinct, I would say that it won't happen, so it will be a lost dollar. But I have gone before.
Okay, so that's you down for a lost dollar. What do you think, Tom?
I tend to agree with Anthony, but if it works, I think gold prices will go down, but green energy will go up.
So in which case, then, if you're into green energy, it'll be a found dollar.
David, we'll finish on that, but green energy for some people is a massive cash cow. Green energy itself in principle is good, but of course there are a lot of people that make a lot of money from it, and I would say that it's not all it's cracked up to be. because at some point you wonder, are they just making money from it, or is it actually helping the world? So interesting.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is as well, of course, is that the nuclear waste that comes off this nuclear fusion is also, shall we say, not particularly green. So, yeah, a lot of hoo-ha about it because it's alchemy, isn't it? I mean, so it's. So I thought it might be interesting to see, and they're looking to raise, billions of dollars, and of course there'll be loads of people who pile in. Oh yeah, let's make gold. That's an absolute winner. But we'll leave that to our audience.
Yeah,
to see as to whether or not they wanted to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually forgot to run the Lost and Found promo before we did all of that, but
just got excited basically. Well, Tom, I appreciate you coming on, mate. It's good to hear your views, and also to bring more men on from the Whole Man Academy, from the network. That is the open invitation for the coming weeks. So this won't be the last time you'll be on here, because we want to hear an update on how.
Update your business. And Tom, if you want to come on regularly, you're more than welcome, because it's a club and the doors are always open. So if you say, hey, look, I want to jump on every week. Tell us about your progress as things are moving on, on a weekly basis, 2 weekly basis. You're always welcome. Yeah. The doors of the Lost Dollar Business Club are always open.
And next week we'll be back with another guest too. I'm not entirely sure which one it's going to be yet, so I won't divulge any information. But
thank you very much for that clarity. That's all I can say, Anthony.
But in the meantime, for those that were listening, watching, as always, appreciate your time. If you remember to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment if anything's had, in your business you've had to adapt, or hopefully you haven't died in the business. But if a business has gone belly up or something, put a comment in, and I'd be interested to hear what's happened. And we'll catch you next week.
Okay, just for a little bit of housekeeping. Stay on, Tom, after the credits when the show is finished, because it's always nice just to say goodbye to everybody while the show's not running. But yeah, again, Anthony, thank you so much for inviting us into the Lost Dollar Business Club. And as caretaker, I'm going to close the doors for the week. Take care, everyone.